Hello and welcome to our overview of Fujitsu's human-centric workplace. Today, I would like to discuss some key trends about client computing and modern workplaces with you. In recent years, we have seen some massive changes in the way people work, and even more radical changes are still to come down the road. Some of this is driven by society, some more by technology. For example, there's a strong trend towards individualization. We see this in fashion or leisure travel preferences, but also in work styles and the way people cultivate their virtual identities in social media. And technology is supporting all of this, maybe even driving this trend to a good extent. For example, we have seen the computer-centric wave some decades ago, when it was great to have technology just for the sake of technology. Then we saw the network-centric wave, starting in the mid-90s, when everything got connected somehow. Now, the most recent trend, and I personally see this as a very positive one, is what we call the human-centric wave. Technology does not matter anymore. Rather, the individual person counts. Well, okay, when I say technology does not matter, this only reflects the surface, meaning what people directly see. But of course, in order to enable all of those new ways of communicating, sharing, and collaborating, it is key that the technology works and that it is really, really easy. One example here is sharing holiday pictures with friends or a customer presentation with your colleagues. We do not know how it works. We simply hit one button. But in reality, we of course use a tablet, 3G connectivity, a secure connection, and a cloud service at minimum. And here we already have two of the most crucial messages I want to raise today: user experience and reliable technology. Now, as those are two key elements of Fujitsu's history over the years and decades, you understand why we as Fujitsu strongly focus on supporting our customers to ride this human-centric wave. As today we want to focus on the modern workplace, let's talk about changes in work styles first. In the past, people went to work, sat down on a fixed desk from 9 to 5 and went back home, day in and day out. Today, employees are demanding much more flexibility. People work from home, from remote locations, they look for flexible office hours, and they use a diverse range of devices, phone, tablet, and all of those gadgets. Now, when we look into the next generation of workers, it becomes even more severe. Think about that. A college graduate from 2014 has never ever seen a world without internet or without mobile phones. Now, when you want to recruit one of those young talents to your company, you need to be attractive as an employer to them. When I went to university, for example, I used pen and paper there. Today's students are used to tablets, notebooks, social networks, instant messaging, and all this stuff, and all of that from their childhood on. This means when you want to employ one of those young guys to your sales team, give him a pen and a paper and ask him to come back to the office after each and every customer meeting and enter all the data into your CRM, you will probably not get this young talent on board. So we as Fujitsu are here to work with you on managing those challenges and setting up your human-centric workplace. Now, we need to tackle a couple of items here. First, moving from enablement to empowerment. Second, balancing autonomy versus control. And we want to talk about choosing the right set of products, services, and solutions. The first topic is about not only providing some loose tools like PCs or a network and hope that employees use it the right way. We want to empower workers to collaborate effectively, have easy access to information, and give them the flexibility to work in a way that is most productive and most suitable for their personal preferences. For example, some people rather read emails on their phone, others on a large PC screen. Some rather work in an open space office, others rather in a quiet home office. So how do you take advantage of those opportunities while limiting the risk? This brings us to the second topic, which is all about finding the right balance between autonomy and control. Of course, I understand IT departments have a strong interest in keeping all devices and communication under control, keep data safe, and reduce complexity of devices. But on the other hand, employees ask for things like choice of devices, mobile information access, or flexible working, which all lead to not only higher employee satisfaction and motivation, but also boosts your overall staff productivity. Of course, this cannot be solved by technology alone, but it also asks for new leadership styles. Now, we want to work with you on making your workforce most happy and most productive while still keeping IT under control. The third key item is choosing the appropriate technology. As Fujitsu, we not only have a vast range of products, solutions, and services across the globe, but with our heritage of over 30 years in the PC business and our own R&D and manufacturing facilities in Japan and in Germany, we also make this experience and reliable technologies available to you. So, the new human-centric workplace of the 21st century is created for people, by people. And with it, the user gets excellent personal user experience. The IT department properly responds to user and business demands, and the businesses achieve both optimum user productivity and solid IT control. In the next couple of minutes, I want to discuss 4 crucial topics which can support you in setting up this human-centric workplace. We'll talk about the growing influence of Generation Y. We'll speak about managing consumerization and the rise of BYOD. Then we talk about providing workplace security, and we're going to speak about unified communication and collaboration. All in all, at Fujitsu, we believe structured autonomy should be the new normal in the modern workplace. It's a belief, and it's at the core of our vision, the human-centric intelligent society. That's why we create workplace solutions that put people in the center, the human-centric workplace. Now, let's look a little closer at how to meet the 4 mentioned workplace challenges, starting with bring your own device, also called BYOD. Did you know that 45% of employees claim that their personal hardware and software are more useful to them than those provided by their company? This would actually mean that user IT added more productivity than corporate IT. Well, I know this is a very provocative statement, and that's exactly why we want to discuss this topic today. But why is it that we know more about what our friends are having for dinner than what is going on in our organization? There are multiple drivers for this trend of bring your own device. What we have seen over the past years is that consumer technology and services are the new benchmark. An example is that most people use cloud services already privately. Mostly, by the way, without having ever heard the term cloud computing. And all this while many businesses are still thinking about how to implement their cloud strategy. We need to keep in mind that every worker is also a consumer. And those guys expect the same level of technology experience also in a professional world, which is pretty understandable to me. This is why we call this trend consumerization. In many organizations, also the business units can be the driving forces. For example, if corporate IT does not provide mobile-enabled tools, workers often maneuver their own way around. This can be with low-level security impact when using, for example, the Autodesk cloud servers or WorldMate as a travel tool, but it can also be more harmful if business data is actually loaded onto their personal tablets. Sometimes companies even close their eyes as they are afraid of adding CapEx in case they supply the right tools to employees. Well, and this is definitely not the way I would call a best practice. So what are the options now? There are actually 4, let's call it adoption models, which we need to consider. On the one side, we have the more classical one, what we call company-owned, personally enabled strategy, in which businesses decide which devices and applications their employees use, and then perhaps also authorize those ones for personal usage. Then we have the choose your own. This allows employees to choose from a range of company-tested and managed devices and services. There is still an element of choice, but the business retains a large degree of control here. And then we have BYOD, or bring your own. This means individuals can purchase any device they like, and then the company provides some containerized apps. Everyone gets what he wants, but of course, there is some serious mobile device management needed to get everything to work together, and that in a secure way. And last but not least, we have the submarine model. And that's what many companies actually have, although they might not be aware of it. Employees here use their own devices, apps, and even cloud storage services, but without any element of corporate oversight or control. So while individual employees might perhaps become a bit more productive, the security risks grow with each and every device that accesses your data. Well, and actually, the submarine option is not really the recommended way, but unfortunately happening way too often out there. It's now up to you to assess your employees and usage scenarios and then choose the best model for your organization. And we as Fujitsu would like to support you on this exercise. Now, if you ask me what will be the sourcing model of the future, actually, I don't know, only time will tell. But we think the choose your own or company-owned and personally enabled one will provide the best balance between control and user experience. For sure, you need to make sure you give the right tools to your staff. A 4-kilo notebook with 3 hours of battery runtime will most likely not do that job. An Ultrabook or tablet from Fujitsu with just over 1 kilo and a full day of battery runtime, like our LifeBook U series, where we have the world's thinnest 14-inch notebook, or the LifeBook T series with our unique convertible Ultrabooks, those will for sure do that job nicely. Now, how can you manage the growing challenge of consumerization? Well, shutting your eyes will definitely not remove it. You first need to engage with your stakeholders, choose usage models, and leverage existing infrastructures. By the way, Windows 8 comes in quite handy here. Then you need to select the right user-friendly devices, and please do not forget security as well as policies and user training. On all of those, we as Fujitsu are happy to support you, of course. For example, with assessment services and of course, our fantastic devices like our Futuro thin clients or our Intel-based LifeBook and stylistic mobile range. I'm pretty sure that an employee who gets a nice 2-in-1 like in our stylistic Q series and the right set of mobile access and communication tools will definitely not feel like he needs to bring in his personal gadgets and undermine your IT strategy. Ignoring BYOD won't make it go away. But if you get your strategy right, you could open up new opportunities for your business growth. Now, we already talked about one of the key drivers for the changes in workplaces, with the emergence of Generation Y in the workforce, and the need to enable a new generation to work in the way that makes most of their abilities while retaining business control. Generation Y, so people who were born between the mid-1980s and around 2005, that's the first generation that grew up in a world full of broadband, smartphones, and social media and all this stuff. It's also the first generation to come from a new, hands-on, child-focused parenting. And these are the two key factors that have formed many of the expectations that Generation Y employees have of their working environments and also of their employers. And Generation Y, which are, by the way, also very often referred as millennials, those ones are now entering the workforce. And they do have a big impact there. Okay. Why am I talking about this Generation Y here? Well, all over the world, we see a lack of good young talents. Organizations all over the place are currently struggling to get good and young people on board. And this will even get tougher in the upcoming years. This means the race for young talents is crucial for organizations across the globe. And reaching this target group is getting pretty important. Well, okay, we cannot solve this challenge purely with IT services and technologies. But what we can do is to support organizations to quite a large extent, as much has to do with work styles and collaboration technologies for this generation. Of course, it's sometimes funny to see and read about various myths about this Generation Y, like laziness, for example. Hey, in reality, those guys have a strong desire to excel and really make a contribution. So work simply needs to be meaningful to them, and then they strive for new ways to reach their targets, and that is good for your organization as well, I'm sure. Also being more family-centric and aiming for good and a positive work relationship. That should not be regarded as selfish, but rather as a great opportunity. They also do have a reputation about changing jobs more frequently. But if you offer them meaningful tasks and a good work experience with enough flexibility, they are actually very loyal and long-term employees. And one key element for them is speed. It's simply in their DNA. They ask for instant gratification, quick communication, and fast adaptation of new technologies. So let's bust the myth about this generation and look into the great benefits organizations get from those millennials. They understand the global marketplace. They are super informed by nature. They are tech savvy, and mostly they also have a strong entrepreneurial spirit. Of course, There are now some challenges for organizations when recruiting this next generation of workers. Organizations need to be speedy. They need to provide serious work flexibility in terms of time and locations. And they need to provide the appropriate technologies to empower them for their work. For sure, you shouldn't now change everything to just suit the Generation Y. But I would recommend to consider some of those facts, because it's not only about recruiting them as new workers, but they also do influence work styles and expectations in general in our current workforces. And if you look at me, I'm definitely not belonging to the Generation Y. But I can tell you, I personally prefer flexible work styles over rigid ones. And also my team actually does, I can tell you. So are you ready to meet the challenges of Generation Y and to turn their skills and attitudes to your organization's advantage? You need to ask yourself, is our HR function ready for intergenerational teams? Do our offices support teamwork and ad hoc communication? How fast can we actually implement decisions? And is our IT infrastructure in shape to enable working from different locations and to help our people connect, engage, and collaborate? And what is also quite important, are we supporting a healthy work-life balance, which is also pretty key to this generation? Now, we at Fujitsu are happy to discuss those topics with you and support with the needed set of IT services, solutions, and devices. Take our great Stylistic Q series, for example. I'm sure your potential young talents would be quite keen on working with this one anytime, anywhere, instead of carrying a bulky, non-connected laptop, don't they? Okay, modern workplaces can really bring some great business benefits, but the most common issue they raise is security. How do you keep business information secure and ensure compliance? Over 99% of new data is now stored electronically. And while mobile devices and applications definitely bring some additional productivity, they increase exposure to the risk of data loss, leakage, or theft. And the risk of data breaches is higher than ever. And there's a heavy price to pay for inadequate security. A data breach can really damage your balance sheet, your share price, or even more severe, your reputation. So it's no surprise that security is one of the top priorities for CIOs today. Now, two important remarks on IT security. First, there is no 100% security. We just need to make sure the level of security is high enough that it is not worth for an intruder to even start the effort. And of course, we also need to make sure that security is easy so that the employees are not the top security hole by writing passwords and post-its, for example. The second remark I want to give you is that we want to talk about controlling data and devices, but not about blocking everything like social media access or mobile data. Rather than just clamping down on everyone and everything, IT needs to make users understand the risk and how they can help to minimize it. At Fujitsu, we have a broad portfolio of products, solutions, and services to make workplace computing really, really safe. For example, we do have automated update services like our desk update. So you always have the latest and most secure drivers and software versions. Then there are multiple security features for access protection. Fujitsu is the only vendor offering notebooks with integrated Palm Secure, which is the leading-edge authentication system that verifies an individual's identity just by the pattern of blood veins in their palm. And those are unique to every individual person. But you can also use solutions like fingerprint scanner or smart cards for access protection, things we as Fujitsu do have integrated into our notebooks and PCs already since the 1990s. Then our Workplace Protect solution combines a range of Fujitsu user authentication, single sign-on, and encryption technologies to provide really tight security. The last example I want to give you is Fujitsu's Erase Disk, which overwrites and thereby irretrievably deletes all data on a hard disk before the system is retired, repurposed, or sold. On top of that, we have a broad range of security services which can round up your workplace security package nice and easily. Now let's look at how unified communications and collaboration solutions are transforming the way enterprises do business. There are two key challenges we need to discuss. First, how can employees collaborate more effectively without wasting time sending emails and waiting for an answer, or without wasting time finding out when a colleague is available for a quick talk. With the growing trend of work flexibility and international collaboration, solving this is not anymore an option, but a must to survive. Secondly, how can organizations keep control over their communication costs? Well, today we have those costs often split. Facility management takes care of landlines, IT for network, and another area then for mobile phones and 3G data. And how can all those costs not only be better controlled for predictable OPEX, but also reduced? So, when we talk about unified collaboration and communication, let's have a look at our daily business. How do you work with your colleagues? Social networking, for example, with instant messaging and video calls, strengthens professional relationships across locations and helps you to stay in touch with your colleagues, customers, and partners. You need to connect with people at the right time and in real time. With professional solutions, you see who is available and when, and all of that very easily. One major element is integrated voice communication over IP, which can massively reduce telephone costs, especially for international calls or when you're on business travels. Then conferencing facilitates real-time communications between participants in different locations. And finally, virtual workspace tools facilitate collaborative authoring and information sharing independent from the devices. All of this are examples of what we call UCNC, or Unified Communication and Collaboration. Well, let me give you an example. In the past, when I was traveling, I needed to make sure that I have all my relevant data on my notebook, or maybe even printed it out. Conference calls were pretty tough to follow, and my mobile phone bill was actually gigantic because of the roaming cost. Today, I'm using voice over IP phone software, Microsoft Link, wireless connectivity, all of that in my notebook and in a tablet with enough battery power and with excellent audio quality. So I can now collaborate with my colleagues and business partners and customers no matter where I am and no matter where they are. And I can do that as easily and at the same cost as I was sitting in my office. It's just pretty simple. Now, what exactly do we understand by UCNC? Actually, that's a solution that gives every user a single point of access to a broad range of advanced communication technologies, and it empowers people to find information more easily, stay in contact, and collaborate productively together. UCNC is all about moving from today's islands of communication with multiple devices, multiple support teams, and disparate strategies to a unified strategy and an integrated user experience that's simplified and really streamlined. As Fujitsu, we support you, for example, with our managed collaboration service, which integrates and manages Microsoft Exchange, SharePoint, Link, and file services to deliver a complete end-to-end collaboration platform. We also do have the right client devices for UCNC, of course. For example, our Esprimo Q and X series, which are both Link available even in standby mode, and that at 0-watt power consumption. And with that, you can even accept calls when the system is locked. Isn't that great? Or take our Livebook U series, use the integrated high-quality microphones, or just connect a Bluetooth headset. On all of those, the latest Intel technology makes sure that you have the right power to run UCNC solutions, of course. So, to summarize, we talked about workplace trends, on managing consumerization, we talked about the impact of Generation Y, and also about security and UCNC. The key messages: workplaces are evolving. They become more heterogeneous and flexible, and new technologies are a strong driver here. It is now IT's job to empower those modern workplaces and keep the right balance between flexibility and manageability. The workplace is really being redefined into a non-physical environment, one that's characterized by user choice, ubiquitous connectivity, and high levels of productivity. So what we want to do is we want to say goodbye to given devices. We say welcome to options and choice. We say goodbye to classical meetings, and we say welcome to global and virtual collaboration. And we also want to say goodbye to cubicles, and we welcome anytime, anywhere working. It is now your decision which is the best way to move forward for your organization. There are places where more rigid structures are necessary, of course, like, for example, a hotel reception. There are also organizations with more flexible structures and solutions and infrastructures that genuinely empower their workforce. Fujitsu is a quite good example here, by the way. And there are also organizations with rigid structures on the one side, but where employees really demand for more flexibility. And here is a definite risk that employees create their own ways of flexibility. And of course, we also need to consider that every organization is unique. In healthcare, you have completely different situations than in education or in consultancies. We at Fujitsu already work with organizations in all areas and all across the globe. And we are more than happy to discuss all of those options, challenges, and solutions, and also share our experience from the various industries so you can create your human-centric workplace.